Hi, my name is Dan. I'm an alcoholic. We recording this? Evidence. Just wanted to first of all just welcome our newcomers. Really glad you guys are here, and congrats on, I believe it was 60 days. Thanks, Ben, for asking me to share my story. So my journey into sobriety, Alcoholics Anonymous, I guess I'll start. My drinking career started at 13. And so I grew up with a father in the Air Force, and my grandparents were military. Grew up on military bases. I'd move every couple years, and to be really honest, I have no idea why I became an alcoholic. I was an angry kid, and my parents remember I was really angry, and I remember being angry. I never knew why, though. I had good parents who loved me, and for whatever reason, I just I never felt like I fit in. I never felt comfortable in my own skin. I didn't feel like I belonged to any groups, and never felt like I was the greatest athlete or the smartest, and so I just had no idea where my place in life was. And when I was introduced to alcohol at 13, it was like we hear all the time, it talks about in the book, it was the magic elixir. The way my brain works is without alcohol, I am obsessing with embarrassment, morbid reflection, remorse, guilt, regret about the past, and then fear about the future. And that is what my brain does, left to my own devices. And what alcohol did for me is alcohol just took me right here, right now, right to the present moment. And I don't think I ever experienced the present moment in my first 13 years of life, but when I took that first drink of alcohol, I was there. And, I chased it for the next 21 years. And let's see, I was drinking alcoholically from the beginning. I would drink till blackout or car accident or arrest. I tried a lot to change brands. The way I changed brands, the way it talks about in chapter 3, switching from scotch to brandy, I tried street drugs. I'd switch from booze to the needle. And then I'd do geographicals to get off the needle, and I'd use booze and weed to get off the drugs. And I went through this cycle for a long time. Found myself lucky enough to find a woman who loved me through my alcoholism, and we had a family. And I never was the type of alcoholic that said, I'm going to quit forever. I knew myself well enough to know that's not something I want to do. That's not something I can do. My journey throughout my alcoholism was just a desperate attempt at moderation, to be able to control and enjoy the way I drink. And I had enough evidence from the very beginning that I don't know how to do that. But I had this great obsession that somehow, some way I can figure this out. And I tried really hard. I spent about a decade with a cocktail of pills and booze at night, and then pass out on the couch, and my wife would lead me up to the bed. And I rinsed and repeated that for about a decade. And eventually my alcoholism took me to a point to where, it pushed my wife to a point where she just wasn't going to put up with it anymore. The lies, all the harm I'd caused her, not being there for my kids. I ended up lying a lot to try and protect my disease. And, I just, for whatever reason, I had no principles. I had no morals. My idea in life, it was very self-serving, and it was just I need to take care of me and my family too. But even my family, paying the bills came after I got my supply. And it was really interesting. I really liked, really appreciate your share on the fifth tradition and the importance of that. And just when I look at the way that my drinking career and substituting it with drugs worked, it's like I could manage my drugs. I could relate with what you said. Like I always had a supply of my pills, but there was no absorption rate with alcohol. Like I could wake up and have a bottle of pills ready for the next day, but the booze were always gone. I could never reach that absorption rate where I could say, I'm good, I've had enough. And fast forward, I got in trouble with the IRS. I lied to the IRS, told them I paid a bunch of money to charities, and I didn't. And they caught me. And I thought I could beat the death and taxes too. I just, I don't know where this ego came from, but I couldn't. And found myself in 2008 owing the IRS $200,000. And they started to garnish my wages and levy my bank accounts. And I've got a wife and these 2 young kids that I'm trying to provide for and keep a roof over their head. And it's like I've just got this crumbling foundation of life. And I'm just desperately, just through sheer willpower and self-reliance, trying to hold it together. And on Father's Day 2013, that house of cards came crashing down. The lies to my wife. I was selling drugs for a living to pay the bills now. I no longer could keep a job. I was no longer employable. And on Father's Day 2013, my wife had found out about a lot of the lies, and she'd had enough of my drinking, and she handed me 2 cards on Father's Day, and one was from her and one was from the kids, and she said, look, these are not for you. These are for the guy that we thought you were, that we hoped you would be. So I don't know if you even want them, but you need to get the fuck out of the house. And it was one of those moments where, something fractured inside of me. It was like, it was pain over the harm I was causing, but it was also like permission slip to just drink the way I want. No longer am I going to try and control it. I'm just going to do what I want. And over the next 2 months, I had just a series of accidents that just took me to a point of pain that finally got me to my surrender. And it was a couple car wrecks. It was falling out of a tree, breaking my back. It was falling and passing out in a fire pit and not coming to. I was so drunk and got 3rd-degree burns on my face. But I'm going to hurry up with the drunk-a-law. I'll get to the solution. Sorry, guys. But it was a Friday. So it was a Friday. I went to see my wife. And I would bring her money on Fridays. I felt like, okay, I'm a real piece of shit. I'm an alcoholic, drug addict piece of shit, but I'm at least going to give some of this money to my wife and kids so that they can be okay while she's, working at a sandwich shop. So every Friday I'd go there and give her some money and try and get out of there as quick as I could because I just hated myself. I hated the way she looked at me. And she sat me down and she said something to me that kind of woke me up for the first time. And she looked at me and she said, hey, first I tried to get out of there after I gave her money. She said, no, you're going to sit down and talk to me, come have a cigarette, chill out. And I sat down and she looked at me in the eyes, deep in my eyes, in a way that, I couldn't escape that look. And she said, I don't know who you are, but if you see Dan in your dreams, will you tell him that his wife misses him and his kids miss him? And something woke up in me and it scared me, and I ran. And that night I broke my back. The next night, after drinking at Utah Lake all day, pounding a bottle of vodka, I had a friend driving me home from the lake who was also drunk, and he ran a stop sign. And I'll never forget this. This is slow motion in my mind. I can see it frame by frame in my mind right now. But I watched him run this stop sign and T-bone a car coming the other way. And I watched this car fly into a ravine. And then immediately after that, another car slammed on its brakes, and a man came running out of the car and looked through the headlights into the windshield. And he said, you just hit my wife. She's 7 months pregnant. And, I've never been a suicide guy. If suicide was as easy as like pushing a button or flipping a switch, I would have done that 1,000 times. But like the idea of taking my own life, I just never really processed that all the way. But in that moment, if I would have had a gun on me, I would have blown my brains out. I just wanted to be done with this earth. I felt like I have hurt my family. I am a worthless human being. I've done everything wrong. I don't know how to do life. And now there's a 7-month pregnant woman who's hurt because of me. And Anyway, she ended up being okay. Thank God she's okay. Baby was okay. The next morning I came to, and my friend who was at the house I was staying at the time, I asked him, what day is today? And he said, well, it's Monday. And I said, well, it can't be Monday. Because if it's Monday, that means, I made one commitment this entire year and to my family, and that commitment was I will show up to my house that I'm not allowed at anymore so I could at least be there for my son to walk him to the bus on his first day of kindergarten. And if it's Monday, that means I missed that. And I broke. I had a complete psychological breakdown, and my goal at the time was to convince my friend to let me use his gun so I could go rob a bank. My plan was I'm going to rob the bank, get the money, take it to my wife, and go to Mexico and just stay there till I'm dead. Had no plans beyond that. And, really when I look back on that, what I was trying to do was commit suicide by cop. And luckily that man convinced me to take a breath and go take a shower. And my experience is this, and I know this isn't everyone's experience, but my experience is on that Monday at 34 years old, I was at that jumping off place, and I cried out to God. And I'd never had a relationship with God. I'd never been a religious person. And my prayer was simple. It was the first prayer I think I've ever done in my life. I think I did some pretend prayers in church as a little kid. But this was the first real prayer, and it was real simple. It was, God, I give up. Please help me. And I'll never forget how that felt. And how that felt, I can't explain it with words. It's ineffable. But I've heard other people who've had the same experience. And I don't know what that was. I mean, I call it God, but it was power. It was love. It moved through every cell in my body. And I, at that moment, knew exactly what to do. And I poured out all my drugs. There was no booze left, of course, because this was the next day. And I called my dad, and I went to detox. And then I got out of detox. And while I was in this is what surrender looked like for me. I think I hear a lot of people talk about surrender. Surrender for me is this. I don't have any ideas left. I have no ideas. I have no opinions about what to do. I am ready to take instruction. I have no idea what to do next. I went to detox. They said, are you sure you're ready? Yeah, I give up. You guys tell me what to do. Just put me where you want. Put IVs in me. Do what you got to do. I don't care. I get to AA 11 days later after detox, and it's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. You guys tell me what to do. I was completely broken, and I just had no plans anymore. I had plans my entire life, but at this moment, I had none. And thank God for AA, because you guys showed me a way out. You guys showed me how to deal with these things that had been keeping me from living in the present moment my entire life. Through a series of finding the will. The one thing I struggled with, and I actually shared about this last week in this meeting when I got called on, but the one thing I struggled with in AA, a lot of the principles I felt like, okay, I can do business with these things. That makes sense. I've been a selfish, self-centered asshole my whole life. Being service-oriented, gratitude, humility, a lot of these principles make sense, but the idea of sponsorship, I just did not want to participate in. For whatever reason, I just thought, having I didn't like the way sponsors called their sponsees. I still don't like that word sponsee for whatever reason. I feel like my little flock of pet sponsees, I just don't like it for whatever reason. So but anyways, I struggled with that. But even sober, and even with that obsession being removed through that sheer surrender, my life was completely unmanageable. It's like I still don't know how to work. I still don't know how to deal with my anger and my regret, and my remorse and my fear. And so I finally got willing, and I asked a man to sponsor me. And, he took me through the steps. And he, when I first met this man and I brought all my problems to him, I said, look, here's kind of a list of the things that I need fixed. $200,000 IRS debt. Wife won't let me at the house. I've got these young kids that are 6 and 7 years old I kind of want to have a relationship with. and a lot, a laundry list of this stuff. I lived at my mom's house after my wife kicked me out, and my mom kicked me out, but I wouldn't leave, so she sold her house and had to move in with her boyfriend. And it's like, just all these harms and wreckage, and I don't know what to do with it. Best analogy I heard of what it's like coming to AA New is like, it's like we have this box truck, like you see those Amazon vans, and my whole career of drinking, it's like every problem, a bill, a debt, a lie, I'm just chucking them in the back of the van, just for 21 years, and then sobriety is like slamming on the brakes, and all of it is like I'm swimming in it. And all this stuff I've avoided, what do I do with this? And, my sponsor said, look, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know if your wife will take you back. But what I do know is this: if you make AA the most central part of your life, if you do that and you let me take you through the steps and share this message with others, you will be okay. Your life will get better. These problems will get solved. I don't know what it looks like with these problems getting solved, but they will get solved. And that's been my experience, 100%. And one thing I wanted to share with newcomers is like, I don't know, for whatever reason, I would hear the message over and over. The way I heard it in my brain, at least, when I was new to AA, was like, life was shit. I came to AA. It's good now. And it's like I'm 4 months sober, and I'm like working the steps of my sponsor and go to meetings every day. And I got a job, but they fired me because I accidentally lit my cubicle on fire. And and the IRS is still sending me letters, and my wife is still pissed, and she needs money to help with the kids. And I just got fired from this job for lighting the cubicle on fire. And it's Christmas time now, and I'm not allowed to come hang out with my wife and kids because she's going to California with her dad, and I'm not invited. And I'm sitting in a freaking AA room on Christmas Day, walking into this room feeling alone, and then walking out just feeling pure gratitude. The fellowship, the people in these rooms have loved me through this process. And so for me, it doesn't get better quick. And it probably wouldn't have worked for me if it got better too quick. I would have taken it for granted. And all of those things that I just wanted fixed, fix the IRS, fix the house, fix my family. It's like the journey of willingness to one day at a time just slowly clean that stuff up has allowed me to build character in a way that I don't think I could have without cleaning up the wreckage, without going through that experience. Today, fast forward, it's like my wife and my kids, my biggest problem today is they want me around all the time. They just love me. They want to hang out with me, and it's not my charm. It's not anything that is of my own making. It's the principles that you guys have instilled with me from being committed to this process. That IRS debt got paid off. It took 9 years to do it, but it got paid off. I was able to get my family into our own house, which, I don't know, some of you guys in AA are ballers, but for me it just felt like these were impossible things to take place. It just, in my mind, it was an impossibility. Anything other than maybe having a part-time job and like getting the IRS to leave me alone, living in an apartment and seeing my kids on every other weekend, I thought that was like the best case scenario. And it's like, man, I would have sold myself so short. Today I do have to talk about one thing real quick here. My sobriety date is July 4th, 2016. And I mentioned I got here in 2013. I've been participating in AA throughout that entire journey since 2013, but my sobriety date is on July 4th of 2016 because I took a break from working with a sponsor. I had decided, for whatever reason, I'd felt that, over those 3 years, I was probably more advanced than the average AA. I've read a lot of spiritual books, and I've been very active in my step work. And what I didn't realize at the time was happening is I had developed this ego before I got sober. And the way my ego looked is I'm like this mid-level drug dealer wearing Target clothes, thinking I'm Scarface. And that's what my ego told me, is like I'm this Scarface type character. Fast forward a couple years, and now all of a sudden I'm sober for a couple years in AA, and I'm the Dalai Lama. I'm Gandhi. I've ascended. And it's just so interesting the way that the alcoholic ego works when I see it through the rear view on these phases I've gone through in sobriety. And what happened when I hit that phase in my sobriety is I started sponsoring myself. I didn't fire my sponsor. I just stopped calling him. I stopped seeing him. I stopped connecting with him. And I started to develop these ideas that went unchecked, that I just kept to myself. And one of those ideas was that I'm powerless over drugs and alcohol, but marijuana is not a drunk, it's not a drink, and it's not a drug. It's a gift from God that grows in the ground, and it will probably enhance my spirituality. Bob Marley is probably one of the greatest guys that ever lived. How could this be a bad thing? And I figured, AA old-timers probably smoke weed. They just don't want to tell us till we hit like the 10-year mark. And since I'm more advanced than most AAs, I'm just going to take my family on a trip to Colorado and smoke some legal weed. And that's what I did. I went unchecked, and my idea in my mind going to Colorado was I just envisioned this like meditating in the Rocky Mountains and, birds landing on my shoulder and God coming down and talking to me. And what ended up happening was I sat on a couch with a bag of potato chips, watching TV and looking at my sister-in-law's bottle of Crown Royal on the table and obsessing over it and just getting really thirsty. And I found out pretty quick that I got no business messing with anything that messes with me from the neck up. I just got no business with that. And so I reset my sobriety date. I connected with a sponsor, started working the steps again. And, I've had a beautiful journey. I'd say that when I look at my experience in AA, probably the two biggest things that have given me joy, given me peace, given me serenity throughout this journey is seeking and carrying the message to others. That experience I had in 2013 where I felt this power. I spent a long time as a teenager as like an atheist. I had a moment at 23 years old on some mushrooms where I felt God and thought I knew what God was, but I stayed drunk. And when I had that experience, it's like I've been walking through this desert of hopelessness and futility for so long. And when I felt that power, I just wanted more of it. I just wanted to find out what it is. And I'll tell you, I've spent a long time trying to figure it out, and I still have no idea what it is. Read a lot of books, and I still have no idea what it is, but I do know how to access it. And that's what I got from AA. The big book is really just Spirituality 101. And I'm looking for the advanced course, and the advanced course is just the back to basics. And when I stay in the basics and I carry the message to someone else, my life seems to be okay. That second half of the third step prayer is one of the most important principles in this program for me. I learned early on in AA that I wasn't an evil piece of shit human being. I was just a really sick human being. And AA wasn't here to help me get good. It was to help me get well. And this third step prayer, that second half of the third step prayer, which is take away my difficulties so that victory over them will bear witness to others of your power, your love, your way of life. I don't like difficulties. I'm still selfish. We're selfish people doing selfless things for selfish reasons. And I know that when my primary purpose is me, when my primary purpose is Dan, is money, property, prestige, I might even get some of that stuff for a little bit, but it never gives me the effect that I think it's going to give me. I never get that effect that I think the new car or the new promotion or the respect from the employers, those things I work towards, that when I make those more important than what my primary purpose actually is, which is to help alcoholics, to help those who are looking for a solution, to provide them with that solution. This world for me, I get sometimes caught up in just a lot of outside issues. I get caught up in my mind in politics. Sometimes I start looking at Twitter too early in the morning before I do my meditation, and I just start getting overwhelmed with how screwed up this world is. And the message for me is simple, And it's this: I'm not qualified to fix any of those things. I'm not qualified to fix world hunger or the political narrative. I'm not qualified for any of those things. What I'm qualified for is I'm qualified, uniquely qualified, to help alcoholics recover from alcoholism. That's it. And that's my primary purpose. That's what I'm here on this earth to do. And I have a lot of other purposes too. I want to be a good dad. I want to be a good husband. I want to make money. I want security. I want all those things. But that has to be my primary purpose above all. And so I stay very active in working with alcoholics. I have my weekends, I work all week, and so my weekends I usually have at least one or two guys on Saturday, one or two guys on Sunday that I have come by my house, and we sit down and read the book together and do step work together. And for me, it's like that house. It doesn't make sense that it's there. It doesn't make sense that I have this home with those people that I love and that love me. When we look at the track record of the way I lived and what I did, I should be dead, and I definitely shouldn't have them. And so the fact that God has gifted me with this house, this home, that's God's house. My job is to be available to help others. And that's where I meet him to do that work. And when I do that, it's like the paradox. The paradox, I focus on money, property, prestige, I get really miserable. I focus on helping others. So a lot of times the money, property, and prestige comes, and I don't even have to do anything about it. I don't even have to focus on my life. And it's the strangest thing. It's impossible for me to explain or even grasp intellectually until I experienced it. And so that's what I try and do today. Trying to think if I have anything to add. I'm supposed to go for like another 10 minutes, but I don't think I can, or I'll start lying. So I'll just stop there. But I just want to say thank you, everyone, for letting me come here and share. And I will say this, and then I'll shut up. So before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, my parents really wanted to find out what's wrong with our kid. Why is he so angry? Why is he always doing drugs and getting in fights? What's wrong with him? And so they took me to shrinks, and they all said the same thing. They said, what your son has is what we call oppositional defiance disorder. He's not schizophrenic. He's not bipolar. He has oppositional defiance disorder. He does not like being told what to do by people in positions of authority. And so for me, that's the same thing as alcoholism. That's how I lived my whole life. I never joined a religion or a political party, or I just was not a joiner. I was an anti-conformist. And so I get to AA, and my track record is not to join, to fight everything. But the way you guys delivered the message of AA, to me at least, my experience was there was literally nothing to fight. It's like, we have a bunch of suggestions for you. You don't have to do them to be a member of AA. You probably should do them if you want to get better, if you want to stay sober. But they're just suggestions. And we have these traditions here, but these traditions aren't rules. And you can break them and you can't get kicked out. And we're self-supporting, so we hope that you can help contribute, but there's no dues or fees. And it's like we all have a higher power, but you can choose whatever concept of higher power you want, or you don't have to do that either. There's no rules here. And so it's like being so used to fighting everything that's put in front of me, broken, having no idea what to do, and the delivery of the way that this program was, the message was delivered to me, there was nothing to fight. And so when I hear guys fighting this process, it breaks my heart, because it's like there's nothing to fight here. Come and go as you please. We're not going to chase you down. You don't have. You can leave. You can stay. We want to carry the message to you because it keeps us sober, and that's why we do it. And anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share, guys.